Cute. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am headed out right now to go get my eyebrows touched up. I do have microbladed brows, I have mentioned that before, and the last time that they had been touched was back in like May of last year. So yeah, it's been a full year, so it's time to get them touched up. I'm actually switching microblade artists. My original microblade artist, she moved to Alaska, but luckily my friend Brooke has gotten certified in the last year and she's been microblading ever since, so I reached out to her to ask her if she would be willing to do mine. So I thought I'd take you guys along for the touch-up if she'll let me film a little bit of that process. She and I actually worked together at Hooters, believe it or not, back in the day, and then we worked together again at another restaurant a few years later called Famous Dave's. So I've known Brooke for a very long time. Really happy that she's doing eyebrows now, because it's nice to not only get my eyebrows touched up by someone I know, but like get to catch up while I'm getting my eyebrows done, because I can tell you my last microblade artist did not have like really great people skills. Like, she did not care what was going on in your life. So, I mean, that's probably a sign I should have switched from her anyways. So really excited. Headed to Brooks right now, and I'll take you guys along. Man, this parking lot is the worst to try to get out of. If you guys are curious to see a before, these are what my brows look like right now. They still look pretty good. Like, honestly, my brows still look really good. I'm just noting a touch of fading at the top and then on the tail. And also I really want Brooke to fix the tail on this side. It's shorter than this brow, and that is because the original microblade artist who did my brows, when I went back for my touch-up, I told her that this side was shorter, and she measured it with like her face measuring thing, and she's like, no, they're even. I'm like, okay, I get it that on your little tool thing that they are even, but clearly on my face, with the way my face curves on the side or something, it doesn't look even, and she wouldn't even it out. So I'm gonna ask Brooke to fix that too, because that has always bothered me. But yeah, just trying to get out of this shopping center. I stopped to get some cash to tip her, and then also there was a Starbucks in there too, so I got some Starbucks, which, like, I don't know, I'm not really a Starbucks girl. I love Dunkin'. Dunkin' is my jam. If you guys watch my old vlogs, that, like, back when I was only on IGTV vlogging, you saw I stopped in at Dunkin', like, every single vlog. That's my jam. The blueberry coffee is so good, and I think I might get some on the way back. Yeah, so just stopped, grabbed cash to tip her, because I know that that's a question that a lot of people have had. Yeah, tip your microblade artist. But yeah, next time you see me, I'll be at her place getting my brows touched up. Okay, so we got the numbing cream on. Getting super numb, because I told you the first time I got it done, I was in a lot of pain, so we're just doing some extra work this time. I love this stuff. You look like Groucho Marx. Cute. Here's my little happy face.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay.
Wow. You know, I always like love having them done like this whole year, but like I always forget how good they look fresh.
I know, right?
It's like I'm always like, yeah, they look great. They look fine, because they're still better than my eyebrows. But I'm like, oh yeah, that's what fresh looks like.
That's how I feel when I buy new makeup. I'm like, I feel like my face looks really good, and then I buy new makeup and put that on, and I'm like, oh,
yeah.
no, this is, or like new brushes even, and you're like,
yeah.
Yes.
Stopped off at Dunkin', like I said I was going to get my blueberry iced coffee. It's so good. I'm bummed though they didn't have almond milk. I usually get it, if you're curious, I usually get either iced or hot with the blueberry flavoring. I usually get almond milk. This is skim because they were out of almond and soy today. And then I only get 2 sugars. because I think they normally put in like 3 or 4 in a medium, and like you don't need that much sugar. But anyways, so here are my brows. They look so good. And then Brooke was awesome, and she fixed the fact that this one was short. So Brooke fixed it and evened it out, and they look so good, you guys. I'm so excited. So I am headed home right now, and I'll jump back on camera and answer some questions that some people had sent me on Instagram about microblading. I had put up a question sticker to see if anyone had any questions about microblading, so I'll go ahead and answer your questions, tell you guys a little bit about the process and just my experiences with microblading for anybody who's curious, who might be thinking about getting your eyebrows microbladed. Spoiler alert, I will tell you, it changes your life. I love getting my eyebrows microbladed. I think that even when you do have full eyebrows, because I have friends who have very full eyebrows who did go ahead and get their eyebrows microbladed, they said it even makes a difference just because it fills in any holes, and it just really like holds your shape for you so that you don't have to do as much work. So in a little while for me, but in just like the next clip for you guys, I'll jump back on here and answer those questions and give you guys a little bit more info about my experience and thoughts. Okay, you guys, so I am now back home, and I'm gonna go ahead and answer your guys' questions and give you some insight to my experience with microblading, because I know that it's been a big trend in the last couple of years, and I know a lot of girls personally who have been thinking about getting it. So I hope to be able to touch on a lot of the things that people wonder about microblading. So here is a little close-up of my brows before we get started so you guys can see what it looks like. And I'll pop a picture of before right over here. This photo is a photo of my brows before I got this particular touch-up, but I will pop in a photo of what my brows looked like naturally before I ever microbladed a little bit later. But as you guys can probably see, before I got them retouched today, they had faded a little bit. I didn't notice how much they had faded until she had touched up my brows. And also we refined the shape a little bit more, and she evened out the length on them. As I had said earlier in the video, my original microblade artist kind of had done one shorter than the other, because according to her measurements, they were even, but on my face they were not. And Brooke totally saw it and was like, no, you're right, like she should have lengthened this side. So that's what Brooke did for me. She gave me a little bit more length here so that they appear much more even this time. And then we also had to fill in the front a little bit because that's where some of the fading had taken place, and then also the tails had faded quite a bit. And then we also filled in the arch up at the top because that was starting to get more rounded than it originally was. So diving into your guys' questions about microblading, the most common question that I've been getting from everybody is, does it hurt? So I will preface this by saying it is totally based on your face and your pain tolerance, because I have a lot of friends who have gotten their eyebrows microbladed and they said that they didn't feel it at all. It didn't hurt at all. Now I had 3 different experiences as far as pain went with my eyebrows. So my very first session, I was crying the entire time. It really hurt. Every single stroke, I could feel like her cutting into my face, and she didn't like do anything to put any extra numbing agents on me or anything, so I just had to sit there through all of the pain, even though like I was tearing up, I was crying the whole time. So that one really hurt for me. We also were suspicious that I might have been like on my period. I do have an IUD, so I actually don't get a period, but which I know like freaks a lot of people out, but it's actually very convenient, so I like it personally. So we think I was probably like through the hormonal cycle of where I should have had a period, and which could have been why I was more sensitive that time, because the next time that I went for my initial touch-up, it didn't hurt as bad. There were a few strokes that I did feel, but it wasn't nearly as bad as the first time. Now, I will say most people are more sensitive right through here, right where your arch is, just because you do have more veins and more nerves right there. So even with numbing agents, you may still feel it a little bit, but for the most part, when you are properly numbed up, it just feels like scratching more than anything. This time with Brooke, she was super awesome. You know, we tried a couple strokes at first and then I could feel them, so we stopped, and then we put on more numbing gel, and she just kept reapplying numbing gel throughout the process because, you know, every once in a while we'd hit an area where I could feel it again, so we would stop and we'd just numb me up a little bit more. So Brooke was super awesome at making sure that it didn't hurt me as bad as my first session was. Like I said, I did still feel some right through this arch just because naturally Again, you have more nerves there, so there is a chance that you're gonna feel it even through a numbing gel. But even the strokes that didn't hurt too bad. On a pain scale of 1 to 10, it was maybe about like a 5.5 or a 6 for the strokes that I did feel. It's not unbearable, it just kind of stings a little bit. But for the most part, doesn't really hurt when you are properly numbed up by someone who is paying attention to whether or not it hurts. Another common question that I got about microblading is, what does it feel like? I think I just touched on that a little bit, but like I said, when you're properly numbed up, it just feels like scratching. If you are not properly numbed up, it does feel like you're getting cut into. I'm just gonna be honest. So really make sure to communicate with whoever's doing your brows and tell them, like, it hurts. Can we put more numbing gel on me? That was a mistake that I had made the first time with my first microblade artist. Even though she knew that it was hurting me, I should have been more assertive. I should have said, we need to stop and you need to put more numbing gel on me. Another question that I got asked was how much? Okay, so for my brows, the first time, the initial microblading appointment, I had gone to my sister's cousins, because my sister's actually my half sister, so her cousin on her other side. I had gone to her cousin's microblade artist. For that one, the girl was having a special and she was charging $350 for the new year. So it was a really good price, and then I paid an extra $150 to do shading. But for a lot of my friends who did their research and made sure to go to credible microblade artists, I was hearing things ranging from $500 to $700 to one friend even went to someone who charged $1,000. So as far as pricing goes, if you shop around, you can find different pricing. The thing to make sure is to take a look at their work. Also be mindful of like something that sounds way too good to be true, just because it does go on your face. So that's not something where you just want to go find the cheapest thing out there. Now, I did go to someone who had a very, very good price, and that was because I had seen their work done in person and they were vetted by someone that I knew. But yeah, it really just depends on what area you're in, who you go to. Anything more than the price, I just think that like doing your research and making sure that you are going to a credible microblade artist is the most important thing besides pricing. But generally the range should be anywhere between $500 to $700. If you really want to go to someone who's going to cost you $1,000, that's fine. I mean, I get it. Like maybe that's someone who does like a lot of like big names, but I think that there are a lot of really, really good microblade artists within the $500 to $700 range. And another question that I got a lot was, how long does it last? So typically your eyebrows are going to last you anywhere between 1 to 3 years, but it's always good to get a touch-up after about a year. I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier in the video, and I'm so sorry if I'm repeating myself because I have been checking in with you guys a couple times throughout the day, so I can't fully remember what I had said in earlier clips, but I had thought that my brows still looked as good as when I had gotten them done, but I hadn't realized how much they had faded over the last year. But I didn't really notice too much fading until maybe about the past like 2 to 3 months is when I started to really actually notice that there was some fading happening. I had noticed the tails were getting a little bit lighter, which is typical. I mean, that part is thinner. And then also too, I had noticed I had lost some of the hair-like strokes in the front of my brow, and then also at the top of both of my arches. So those were the areas that Brooke really focused on refilling for me. But I know that most microblade artists do have a policy of you need to get your touch-up done within a year of your last touch-up, or else it is considered a full new brow. So if you do decide to get your eyebrows microbladed and you decide you want to keep it going, make sure to do your touch-up appointment between 10 to 11 months from the last touch-up that you got. So another question that I got is, what is the healing process like? Okay, so the first thing that I always tell friends of mine who are about to get their eyebrows microbladed is, yes, they will look like they disappear after about a week. Do not panic. So that's the first thing that I'm gonna tell you. Now, the actual healing process. So my original microblade artist did not walk me through the healing process, and I freaked out like no other. Like I was so scared about my brows through the healing process. So what actually happens, and this is especially for those of you who may be going to get your eyebrows done for the very first time, I do want to reassure you about some things. Day 1, they're gonna look amazing. They're gonna look incredible. Day 2, they might look a little bit dark. They may not look as sharp as day 1, but day 3, they're gonna get dark, and it's gonna almost look like you just like Sharpied on your eyebrows. So it's gonna actually look like that, I think between days 3 through 5 or 6, just because your skin is healing and it's starting to scab. Also too, you will notice that your brows kind of shrink in size. Again, it's because they're healing, so you know, anytime you get a cut, you'll notice that the skin kind of adheres to itself and it kind of shrinks on itself. So that's what's happening to your eyebrows, because those are open wounds that your skin is trying to heal. Now, as your eyebrows heal, just like any cut you get on yourself, the dead skin is going to fall off. So you will notice your eyebrows are peeling. If it is your very first time getting microbladed, you may end up looking crazy. I was peeling so heavily, and it didn't get as crazy as some of the pictures that I saw on Google, but I did look very flaky and I was extremely itchy. Like I could not deal with how itchy I got. But the second time around, it wasn't as bad. Like if you're healing from a touch-up, it's not anywhere near as bad. But what was scary about like the peeling process is like it looks like your brows have disappeared. Like all of the work that they just did disappeared. You'll be fine. So what happens is when you get microbladed, they cut into your skin and insert pigment down below in like the lower dermises. I'm not a dermatologist. This is just what I remember from like the first time when I got my eyebrows microbladed, and I like researched the entire healing process for days. So the pigment is inserted down in the lower layers of your skin. So when you're healing and the top layers are falling off, yeah, it's gonna look like those strokes have disappeared, but just be patient, because after about a week or 2 goes by, it'll all come back and your eyebrows will look as beautiful and as full as the very first day. The entire healing process in itself does take anywhere between 3 to 4 weeks to be fully healed. So before you freak out and go back to your microblade artist and you're like, oh my God, my brows have disappeared, we gotta retouch this, just wait. Typically the first time you get your eyebrows done, you do schedule a touch-up with them anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks after your initial appointment, because at that point you should be pretty much fully healed so they can see wherever you need to fill in any gaps or anything like that. Now, you do 100% need a touch-up after your very, very first initial appointment, just because they'll need to see how your skin reacts to the pigment. Some people have skin where not all of your skin takes all of the pigment the first time around, so you need a lot of filling in. Other people, like me, I was lucky. I just needed a little few extra strokes here or there. My eyebrows actually healed really, really well. And for me personally, I didn't put anything on my eyebrows as they were healing. Some people will recommend to you to put on oils or Vaseline or something as they're healing. I have very oily skin, and my first microblade artist actually didn't recommend to put anything on your brows at all to anybody. So I don't know how anybody with dry skin ended up healing, but for me, I think my own oils were enough to heal my brows properly. You don't want to get your eyebrows wet. So that is the key. So for 5 days at least, you cannot work out. If you have to wash your hair, my initial microblade artist did tell me, like, if you have like an event you have to go to and you have to wash your hair, go to a blow dry bar and have them like wash your hair over the sink so that your eyebrows do not get wet. That is super, super critical within the first 5 days of getting your eyebrows done. You cannot get them wet. You cannot work out. You cannot sweat. Nothing. For my initial appointment at night, my girl did have me sleep with paper towels taped to my face, which was such a cute look for Trevor. But I think that that really helped, because I feel like I would have scratched my eyebrows throughout the night had I not had that on, or like rubbed off the tails or something in the middle of the night. But I learned a little bit late into the game that it was probably easier to actually use Band-Aids. So I need to go get the correct Band-Aids. These are not the correct Band-Aids, but basically you want like the long ones where there's nothing sticky on the side, so I do need to go get the correct ones. It was easier for me to just sleep with Band-Aids on the tails, because that's really what I was concerned about with sleeping at night. So I personally suggest that. Also too, because the Band-Aids don't come off in the middle of the night, tape on your skin will, especially if you're oily like me. That was what I had to do during the healing process, and like I said, I didn't put anything on it. I just really made sure to keep them dry. And when I went back for my initial touch-up appointment, she was very surprised. When she saw my brows, she was like, these are some of the best healed brows I've ever seen. And I was like, well, thank you. So I think that that's key, is keeping them dry and really just trying not to touch them, even though you will be so itchy Like, there's no way around it. You're gonna be itchy during the healing process. Another question that I get is, what is the best thing about having them? Honestly, it's being able to wear no makeup or minimal makeup like I'm doing today. I'm rocking that no makeup look, but it's being able to have brows even when you don't have any makeup on or you have barely any makeup on. If you're doing a very easy makeup look like this one, or even like if I had a little bit more on, I don't need to fill in my brows at all. Like, I don't need to do them, and any girl knows doing your brows takes a long time, so this saves you so much time. It's like not even funny. For me personally, I naturally barely have any brows. I'll go ahead and insert a photo right here so you guys can see. I only have hair in the front, and then past the tail, I don't have a brow. Like, it's gone. So what had happened was I did the thing that it turns out a lot of people did, you know, in like the late 90s, early 2000s, all of us coming into age, we plucked our eyebrows to within an inch of its life. Mine never grew back, which apparently happened to a lot of girls. I just always had very thin brows, and honestly, back when I had to do my brows every day, it, honest to God, took me anywhere between 12 to 20 minutes, depending on how much I messed up the shape, to fill in my brows. I'm not even kidding. Like, it took up so much time in my morning. I remember the day before I went to go get my eyebrows done, I timed myself and it clocked in at 15 minutes, and I was like, wow, this is gonna save me about 15 minutes every day. So for me, that's been like the biggest benefit, is just the time saver, and also having brows when I'm not wearing makeup. It honestly was life-changing for me. Another question that I get is, do you still fill in your brows at all? So when I first got my eyebrows done, for the first 6 months, I didn't. But I did start to notice, though, sometimes I'd get makeup on them or something. So after about 6 months, I started filling it in with just like a little bit of powder when I was wearing only a full face of makeup, just because my request when I microbladed my eyebrows was that they looked natural. So when I have a full face of makeup on, they could still sometimes get lost. So I would just take a little bit of powder on an angled brush and just fill in wherever, you know, foundation was possibly covering it up. And it honestly takes me less than a minute. Honestly, probably less than 30 seconds. I just go really quick in and I'm done. But that was it for my microblading video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to leave them down below in the comments, or if you follow me on Instagram at _bottledambition, feel free to DM me if you have any other questions on anything that I said or anything that I didn't mention. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.